My name is Angela Ramirez, 36 years old, and I never thought I'd be grinning after my mother used a family dinner in our Seattle suburb to pull off a desperate scam for $3.6 million from my account. Her reckless ways always strained us, but this was a new low. At the table, her demands for money got heated. I cut her off cold. Driving home, her frantic call hit. Grandma had a stroke, heart racing. I gave her the account code, rushing back. Grandma was fine, sipping tea with friends. The money gone. But that code, it was a trap I'd set. The next day, the FBI showed up. Mom's face drained as I smirked. She'd walked right into my plan. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, hit subscribe, and stick around to see how I turn the tables on my own family and the jaw-dropping consequences that followed. To understand why I set up that decoy account with trackers, you need to go back to my childhood in a quiet Seattle suburb. My father, James Ramirez, died in a car crash when I was 9, leaving behind a fractured family. He was our rock and accountant who balanced our modest life, while my mother, Deborah Klein, bounced between retail jobs, her impulsive spending already a strain. That night, I overheard something that changed everything. Hidden behind the couch in our cramped living room, I listened as Deborah begged James for money, claiming a fake medical bill from a clinic. Her voice was desperate, his skeptical, but worn down. "We can't keep doing this," he said, exhausted. She swore it was a one-time fix. Hours later, he stormed out, stressed and distracted. He never came home. His car veered off the road, a tragedy tied to that fight. After that, Deborah spiraled. Her reckless choices, lavish purchases, risky bets left us teetering on eviction. My maternal grandmother, Margaret Fowler, stepped in to save me and my sister, Amber Klein. A retired nurse living on a fixed pension, Margaret owned a small ground-floor condo in a leafy Seattle neighborhood. By 11, Amber and I moved in permanently with Deborah's half-hearted consent during one of her fleeting clear moments. Margaret was strict but steady, teaching us the value of planning and hard work. She saw my knack for numbers early, gifting me a budgeting book from her savings when I was 15, sparking my interest in finance. Deborah's visits were erratic. She'd show up flush with cash from some lucky streak, promising vacations we never took, or desperate, begging for help with debts. Margaret shielded us, paying landlords directly when needed, but never giving Deborah cash. School became my escape. I excelled in economics, driven by Margaret's mantra that financial independence meant freedom. At 16, I landed my first job at a local bookstore, saving every penny. Margaret's support got me through. When I showed promise in investment strategies, she scraped together funds for a basic laptop, a game changer for my studies. That effort paid off with a full scholarship to the University of Washington, where I majored in finance with a focus on sustainable investing. I graduated with honors, juggling part-time gigs to avoid debt. Margaret stood proud at my ceremony. Deborah claimed a migraine but later posted pictures from a Portland casino. After college, I joined a small investment firm in Seattle, learning the ropes of wealth management. At 25, I spotted a gap in the market for green technology investments. With $10,000 saved and a small loan from Margaret, I launched Evergreen Wealth Advisors, specializing in ethical portfolios for high-net-worth clients. The irony wasn't lost on me, building a fortune by helping others protect theirs, knowing how Deborah's impulses had torn ours apart. Over 10 years, Evergreen grew from a solo venture to a firm with 120 employees and offices in Seattle and Portland. Last year, industry reports valued it at $150 million, with my personal worth at $10 million. Success reshaped my life, but Deborah remained a constant challenge. Her requests escalated with my wealth emergency pleas for rent, car repairs, or vague medical costs. I learned early to verify every claim, paying vendors directly, never her. By my late 20s, her lies grew bolder. At 27, she demanded $30,000 for a supposed kidney treatment. I found no record of any doctor visit. At 30, she tried opening credit lines in my name. 2 years ago, she roped Amber into a story about a terminal illness, only for me to discover she was dodging creditors. That was when I drew a hard line. I set up a trust for her essentials, rent paid to her landlord, a modest monthly stipend, and counseling covered if she ever sought it. She called it controlling, resenting the restrictions. Our contact dwindled to tense holiday calls and rare visits under Margaret's watch. Margaret, now 80, remained my anchor. I bought her a cozy condo in the same Seattle suburb, visiting twice a month and calling every weekend. She never judged Deborah, her daughter-in-law, but supported my boundaries. Amber, 2 years older, drifted between us, closer to me but tangled in Deborah's chaos, sometimes acting as her reluctant messenger. With my personal life stabilized, I focused on Evergreen's biggest leap, yet a merger with Horizon Innovations, a Portland-based green tech giant. The deal, potentially worth $40 million to me, would secure my team's future and cement my legacy. That merger brought me to Portland for final talks, but the dinner with Deborah and Amber set the stage for what happened next. Their push for money that night wasn't new, but it carried a weight I hadn't anticipated. That dinner at Grandma's condo in our Seattle suburb was supposed to be a rare family moment. My grandmother, Margaret Fowler, had set the table with her usual care. Simple plates, a pot roast, and her favorite chamomile tea cooling nearby. My sister Amber Klein sat across from me picking at her food, while my mother Deborah Klein fidgeted, her eyes darting. The air felt heavy, like something was brewing. Halfway through, Deborah leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Angela, we need to talk about my allowance. Costs are up, rent, groceries. I can't keep up on what you give me." Her tone carried that familiar edge, the one that always preceded a demand. I set my fork down, keeping my voice even. "Mom, the trust adjusts yearly for inflation. It covers your rent directly plus essentials. That's the deal." Amber shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze, her fingers twisting her napkin. Deborah's face tightened. "It's not enough. You're sitting on millions, Angela. Can't you help your own mother?" The accusation stung, but I'd heard it before. "I've helped plenty," I said, glancing at Margaret, who stayed silent but watchful. "The boundaries are there for a reason." Deborah's eyes flashed, but she dropped it, muttering about fairness. Driving home through the quiet streets, my phone buzzed, her number. I pulled over, heart already sinking. "Angela, thank God," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "It's Grandma, she had a stroke. They rushed her to Harborview Medical Center." My stomach dropped. Margaret had complained about headaches lately. A stroke wasn't impossible. "What's her condition?" I pressed, gripping the wheel. "Critical," Deborah wailed. "Internal bleeding, brain pressure. They need a specialist, but Medicare won't cover it fully. The hospital's demanding an $80,000 deposit for surgery, cash or transfer now." My mind raced. Harborview was a top trauma center. They wouldn't delay for payment, would they? But fear took over. Margaret was my rock. "I'll wire it to the hospital." I offered, my voice tight. "No time," Deborah insisted. "The financial office closes in 15 minutes. I'm at your condo now. Amber gave me your backup account details. I just need the code." Amber. My sister knew about my accounts from helping with taxes last year. Had she shared them carelessly? Doubt not, but Margaret's life was on the line. "Fine," I said. "The code is 927461. Take only what you need and text me confirmation." Deborah stammered thanks, promising updates from the hospital. I floored it to Margaret's condo 20 minutes away. The streets blurred as I replayed Deborah's sobs, her urgency. Something felt off. Her story was too precise, too rehearsed. I pushed the thought aside. If Margaret was in danger, I couldn't hesitate. Pulling into her driveway, I braced for the worst. The condo's lights glowed softly. I knocked, then used my key. Inside, Margaret sat at her dining table, surrounded by her book club friends, laughing over a stack of novels. Ronald Ellis, her neighbor, waved me in. "Angela, join us for tea." My relief hit like a wave, then twisted into dread. Margaret was fine. No stroke, no hospital. "Ronald, when did you last see Mom?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "This afternoon," he said. She stopped by to borrow a cookbook, said she was meeting someone later. My phone stayed silent. No confirmation text from Deborah. I opened my banking app. Heart pounding. The decoy account rigged with trackers showed an access attempt at $3.6 million initiated minutes ago from my condo. The funds were moving, already headed toward a location near Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Deborah hadn't just lied, she'd planned this. I called Harborview Medical Center, my hands shaking. "I'm checking on a patient Margaret Fowler admitted for a stroke today," I told the receptionist. A pause, then her reply, "No record of anyone by that name. No stroke admissions matching that description." I tried 2 other hospitals, Swedish Medical, Virginia Mason, same answer. My suspicion hardened into certainty. Deborah's story was a fabrication, and Amber's involvement raised questions. Had my sister been roped in, or was she complicit? I dialed Amber's number, but it went to voicemail. Then I tried Margaret again, stepping outside to keep my voice low. "Grandma, are you okay?" "Really?" She laughed, confused. "Fit as ever, dear." Why I didn't explain yet, just hung up, my mind racing. The app pinged again, showing the funds now stationary at a motel off the airport's main drag. Deborah was moving fast, likely with someone else thinking she'd hit the jackpot. I grabbed my keys, the weight of her betrayal settling in. Standing in Margaret's driveway, I pulled up the banking app again, my pulse racing. The tracker in my decoy account showed the $3.6 million had stopped moving, locked at a motel near Seattle-Tacoma Airport, just 10 miles away. Deborah thought she'd outsmarted me, but she'd triggered my safeguard system. I jumped back in my car, the Seattle night air cool against my skin, and headed toward the signal. My mind churned. How had Amber gotten involved? Had she knowingly handed Deborah my account details, or was she just another pawn in Mom's scheme? On the drive, I dug into Deborah's recent behavior. Her texts over the past month had been oddly specific, probing my travel plans, asking about my Portland merger meetings, even commenting on my condo's new security system. At the time, I'd brushed it off as small talk, but now it screamed calculation. I pulled up my security logs from home. Cameras showed Deborah visiting twice recently, once when I was there, and once last week claiming to drop off a birthday card. She'd lingered inside for 40 minutes, far too long for a quick errand. What had she been looking for? Then I searched her social media, something I rarely did. A photo from a week ago caught my eye, her smiling at a coffee shop, tagged with a man I didn't recognize. His profile listed him as Patrick Doyle, 52, a financial consultant based in Seattle. A quick cross-check online revealed more: 2 arrests in Oregon for deceptive practices, charges dropped due to lack of evidence, and a string of complaints about shady investment deals. My gut twisted. Patrick was no stranger to scams, and Deborah's desperation made her the perfect mark. My phone vibrated, Amber calling. I hesitated, then answered. "Angela, I messed up," she said, her voice shaky. "Mom asked for your account details months ago, said it was for emergencies. I gave her the backup account login thinking she'd never use it. She called me tonight, said she was at your place, needed money fast for Grandma. I didn't know it was a lie until I called Margaret. She's fine." "Angela, I'm so sorry." Her words hit hard. Amber had been careless, not malicious, but her involvement stung. "Where's Mom now?" I demanded. "She mentioned meeting someone at a motel near the airport," Amber whispered. "I think she's planning to leave town." I hung up, my anger flaring. Amber's regret seemed genuine, but it didn't erase her role. The motel loomed ahead, a budget chain with flickering neon signs. The app pinned the funds to room 214, second floor. I parked, my hands steady despite the adrenaline. At the front desk, I approached the clerk, a tired-looking woman named Lisa. "I'm surprising my mother for her birthday." I lied smoothly. "She checked in today, but I need the room number." "Probably under Deborah Klein, or maybe her friend Patrick Doyle." Lisa tapped her keyboard. "Mr. Doyle, room 214, she confirmed. "Want me to call up?" I shook my head. "No. It's a surprise. I'll text her when I'm there." In the elevator, I steeled myself. Confronting Deborah was inevitable, but Patrick's presence complicated things. His fraud history suggested he was the brains behind this, using Mom's weaknesses. I'd already alerted my bank's security team, who'd flagged the transaction as suspicious, ready to notify authorities if needed. Outside room 214, muffled voices leaked through the door, a man's low tone, Deborah's sharper pitch. I knocked firmly. The voices cut off. After a moment, the door cracked open, chain still latched. Deborah's face appeared, eyes wide with shock. Angela, what are you doing here? I came back when I heard about Grandma's stroke. I said, my voice calm but edged. Can I come in? She hesitated, glancing behind her. It's not a good time. I'm just changing. I leaned closer. Mom opened the door. We both know Grandma's at her book club right now. Her face paled. The chain rattled and the door swung open. Deborah stood in a sweater, hair disheveled. Behind her, a man with slick gray hair and a pressed jacket, Patrick Doyle, zipped a suitcase. Stacks of cash sat on the desk alongside plane tickets peeking from a folder. Angela, I can explain. Deborah started, her voice trembling. It was an emergency, not what you think. I stepped inside, closing the door. An emergency that needed $3.6 million, I said, pointing to the cash. Or was that for you and Patrick to disappear? Patrick straightened, flashing a practiced smile. You must be Angela, the finance star Deborah brags about. I'm Patrick Doyle. This is a misunderstanding. I ignored his outstretched hand. No misunderstanding. You used a fake story about Grandma to access my account. Deborah's eyes darted to Patrick. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she said. I owed money, bad people. Patrick said this was the only way. My phone buzzed again, Amber texting. I'm at the motel. I told Mom to stop, but she wouldn't listen. I'm so sorry. I glanced at it, my jaw tightening. Amber just texted. She gave you the account details, didn't she? But she says she didn't know you'd go this far. Deborah's shoulders slumped, guilt flashing across her face. She didn't. It was my idea, Patrick helped plan it. Patrick moved toward the desk, casually sliding a magazine over the tickets. This is a family matter, he said smoothly. Maybe I should step out. I blocked his path, holding up my phone with the app's tracker. Stay put. Every dollar you touched is traceable. Did Mom tell you I run a firm that secures wealth? This account was a decoy wired to alert my team. Deborah gasped, her eyes wide. You knew, I nodded. The code I gave you triggered the trackers. I hoped you'd stop at $80,000, but you got greedy. Patrick's charm faded, his eyes narrowing. You're bluffing. No one tracks cash like that. I held his gaze. It's not just cash, it's a digital trail. My bank's already flagged it. Deborah's voice broke. Angela, I didn't want to hurt you. Patrick said it'd be quick, that you wouldn't miss it. Patrick snapped. Deborah, shut up. I stepped closer, my voice low. You used Grandma's life to manipulate me. That's not a mistake, it's a choice. My phone pinged a message from my bank's security team confirming they'd notified the FBI. I kept my eyes on Deborah and Patrick, waiting for the next move. As I stood in that motel room, staring down Deborah and Patrick, a sharp knock broke the tension. FBI opened the door, a firm voice called. Deborah froze, her eyes darting to the cash on the desk. Patrick's cool facade cracked, his hands twitching toward the suitcase. I stepped back, my heart steady, and opened the door. 2 agents entered. Susan Rivera, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, led the way, badge gleaming. Deborah Klein, Patrick Doyle, you're under arrest for wire fraud and attempted theft of federally insured funds, she said, her tone clipped. My banking app's tracker had done its job, alerting my security team, who'd looped in the FBI overnight. The $3.6 million wasn't just a number, it crossed state lines, making this a federal case. Patrick lunged for the tickets, but the second agent grabbed his arm. Don't make this worse, he warned. Deborah's knees buckled and she sank onto the bed, her face ashen. Susan motioned to the cash and tickets. We've got the tracked funds and digital logs from Ms. Ramirez's account. You tripped a sophisticated system. Handcuffs clicked as they secured Patrick, who muttered about his lawyer. Deborah stayed silent, her eyes fixed on me, a mix of fear and shame. Susan turned to me. Ms. Ramirez will need your statement, but you can have a moment with your mother if you want. I nodded, my throat tight. The agent stepped outside with Patrick, leaving Deborah cuffed, her hands trembling in her lap. I faced her, my voice cold. Why, Mom? Why lie about Grandma's life? She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. I was drowning in debt, creditors threatening me, dangerous ones. Patrick said your account was an easy fix that you'd never notice. Her eyes welled up. I didn't think it'd hurt you this much. Didn't think. I snapped, my anger surging. You used Grandma's health to manipulate me just like you did with Dad's trust years ago. Her head dropped, tears hitting the motel carpet. I know I messed up, Angela. I'm sorry, I thought I had no choice. I shook my head, unmoved. You always have a choice. You chose Patrick over me, over Amber, over everything. Her sob caught in her throat, but I felt no softness. The years of lies, fake emergencies, broken promises had built a wall I wasn't ready to tear down. My phone buzzed, Amber again, texting, I'm outside the motel. I can't believe Mom did this. I'm here if you need me. I glanced at it, my jaw tight. Amber's regret didn't erase her part, but her willingness to show up softened my edge toward her. Amber's here? I told Deborah, my tone flat. She told me everything, how you used her to get my account details. Deborah's eyes widened. She didn't mean to. She was trying to help me. Blame me, not her. I held her gaze. I'm not blaming her. But you. You planned this, Mom. You knew exactly what you were doing. Susan re-entered, her expression professional but kind. We need to take her now, Ms. Ramirez. I stepped back as they guided Deborah to her feet. She looked at me, her voice breaking. Angela, I never meant to lose you. I didn't respond. Her words felt hollow too late. As they led her out, Patrick was already in the squad car, his head bowed. Susan handed me her card. We'll need you at the Seattle field office tomorrow to finalize your statement. The evidence is airtight, tracked funds, security footage from your condo, and their digital trail. Back in my car, I sat for a moment, the motel's neon glow fading behind me. Amber waited nearby, her face pale under the streetlight. I should have stopped her sooner, she said, her voice small. I nodded, not ready to absolve her, but not shutting her out either. We'll talk later, I said, starting the engine. The FBI's swift action had closed one chapter, but the weight of Deborah's betrayal lingered, pushing me toward a decision I'd been avoiding for years. 3 weeks after the motel confrontation, I sat in a Seattle courtroom, the air heavy with the hum of fluorescent lights. My mother, Deborah Klein, stood before the judge, her hands cuffed, her usual confidence replaced by a hunched posture. Patrick Doyle, her partner in the scheme, was beside her, his tailored jacket swapped for an orange jumpsuit. Amber, my sister, sat 2 rows behind me, her face drawn but resolute. The public defender had pushed for a plea deal, reduced charges for Deborah if she testified against Patrick. I'd been asked to weigh in as the victim, and my decision was clear. David Phillips, the federal prosecutor, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s, approached me before the hearing. Ms. Ramirez, we have a strong case, he said, sliding a file across his desk. Your tracked account security footage from your condo and phone records show Deborah and Patrick planned to access $3.6 million using a fabricated emergency. Patrick's prior fraud cases in Oregon make him the instigator, but your mother was a willing participant. A plea could mean 2 years for her with probation and restitution. I shook my head. No deal. She knew what she was doing, used my grandmother's life to manipulate me. She needs to face the full consequences. David nodded, his expression neutral. Understood. Without a plea, she's looking at 5 to 7 years for wire fraud and conspiracy, given the amount involved. I held his gaze. That's what I want. Amber caught my eye from across the room, her nod slight but firm. She'd agreed to testify about giving Deborah my account details, her guilt driving her to cut ties with Mom. It wasn't forgiveness Amber's role still stung, but a shared resolve to stop enabling Deborah's lies. The judge called the session to order. David laid out the evidence, my app's tracking data showing the funds' movement to the motel, security footage of Deborah and Patrick entering my condo, and my recorded call, capturing her fake sobs about Grandma's stroke. Patrick's lawyer tried to pin it all on Deborah, claiming she coerced him. Deborah's defender argued she was desperate, trapped by debts to dangerous creditors. The judge wasn't swayed. "The evidence shows premeditation and intent," he said, his voice steady. "Ms. Klein, you exploited familial trust for personal gain. Mr. Doyle, your history suggests a pattern." Deborah's eyes met mine as the verdict came. "Deborah Klein, you are sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years probation and full restitution," the judge declared. Patrick got 7 years, his prior record weighing heavily. Deborah's face crumpled, but I felt no pity, only a cold clarity. She'd chosen this path just as she'd chosen to lie about Dad's debts years ago, pushing him to his breaking point. Amber gripped my hand, her voice low. "You did the right thing, Angela. She can't keep hurting us." After the sentencing, David pulled me aside. "We're also investigating Patrick's ties to a loan shark in Portland," he said. "Your mother's testimony could have helped, but her refusal to cooperate sealed her sentence. She'll likely serve at least 4 years before parole, and her debts over $200,000 will follow her." I nodded, unsurprised. Deborah's impulsive choices had always led to dead ends. "What about the money?" I asked. "Recovered in full," he confirmed. "Your decoy account worked as designed." Outside the courthouse, Amber and I stood under a gray Seattle sky. "I'm done with her," Amber said, her voice breaking but firm. "I can't keep waiting for her to change." I squeezed her shoulder. "Neither can I. We've given her enough chances. We'd both spent years caught in Deborah's cycle, her lies, her pleas, her promises. This was the line we wouldn't cross again." I drove back to Margaret's condo that evening, needing her quiet strength. She listened as I recounted the verdict, her eyes sad but unsurprised. "You protected yourself, Angela," she said, pouring tea. "Sometimes that's all you can do." Her words settled over me, a reminder of the boundaries I'd fought to maintain. Deborah's sentence wasn't just punishment, it was a chance for me and Amber to break free. 5 months after the courtroom verdict, I stood in my Seattle office watching the city's skyline as I signed the final merger papers with Horizon Innovations. Victoria Hale, their CEO, shook my hand, her smile warm. "Angela, this deal's a win for both of us. $40 million for you, and your team's green investment strategies stay intact." The merger, delayed by the chaos of Deborah's scheme, had come together smoothly, securing my employees' futures and boosting Evergreen Wealth Advisors' reach. My personal share pushed my net worth past $15 million, but the victory felt hollow against the fractured family I'd left behind. Back in my Seattle suburb condo, I focused on rebuilding what mattered. Margaret, my grandmother, remained my anchor. I'd upgraded her condo's security system, adding cameras and a panic button, ensuring she felt safe after Deborah's betrayal. We met weekly for tea, her book club stories a quiet comfort. "You did what you had to," she told me one evening, her voice steady. "You protected your heart, Angela. That's strength." Her words grounded me, a reminder that family could mean chosen bonds, not just blood. Amber and I grew closer, our shared decision to cut ties with Deborah forging a new trust. She'd moved to a small apartment near me, taking a job as a paralegal to rebuild her life. Over coffee one morning, she admitted, "I spent years hoping Mom would change, but her choices showed me who she really is." I nodded, my own resolve mirrored in her eyes. "We gave her every chance," I said. "Now we choose ourselves." Amber squeezed my hand, a silent pact to move forward together. Deborah's absence was permanent. Her 5-year sentence in federal prison, coupled with over $200,000 in unpaid debts, ensured she'd face years of consequences even after release. I hadn't visited or called, not out of anger, but clarity. Her lies, from faking Dad's debts in my childhood to using Grandma's health to access my funds, had broken any hope of reconciliation. The trust fund I'd set up for her years ago was dissolved, its assets redirected to support Margaret's care and local charities for financial literacy. I felt no guilt. Boundaries weren't punishment, they were freedom. Professionally, I leaned into new challenges. The merger let me step back from daily operations at Evergreen, taking on a strategic role to mentor young women in finance. I launched a scholarship program in Margaret's name-funding college for kids from unstable homes like mine had been. It wasn't about erasing the past, but building something better from it. Outside work, I found balance joining a hiking group in Seattle's nearby trails, even adopting a rescue cat named Sage, whose quiet company eased the weight of long days. Reflecting on that fateful dinner, I saw how Deborah's attempt to take $3.6 million had forced me to face the truth. Her betrayal wasn't just a moment, it was the culmination of decades of manipulation echoing the lies that broke Dad. But it also gave me clarity. Trust, I learned, must be earned through actions, not promises. Boundaries aren't walls. They're lifelines protecting what matters most. Cutting ties with Deborah didn't mean I stopped loving her. It meant I loved myself enough to walk away. For anyone watching struggling with family who hurt more than they heal, know this: you can choose your own path. Setting limits doesn't make you cold, it makes you whole. Share your story below. Have you had to draw a line to protect yourself? What did it teach you? The journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. My family may have shattered, but I found strength in the pieces, and so can you.
Do you truly believe there's a place for you here? My mother-in-law's words sliced through the air as we sat in the restaurant, the aroma of the lavish meal before us tainted by her disdain. You're just a daughter-in-law, not blood, she added, a smirk playing on her lips. She waved her hand dismissively, a gesture that felt like an invitation to leave. Anger coursed through me, making my hands tremble as I pushed back my chair to stand, but before I could exit the room, she halted me with a raised hand. Wait, what about the bill? If you're leaving early, leave the money, she demanded, a smug expression on her face. I met her gaze with a defiant smile. Why would I pay for a stranger's bill? I retorted. My name is Maya, a 28-year-old office worker. My husband, Terrell, and I are content in our relationship, except for one persistent problem: my overbearing mother-in-law. Living in close proximity to her, she constantly invaded our lives, criticizing my cooking and homemaking skills. Uninvited, she would barge in, pointing out every flaw, all while pretending to be a concerned mother. When I complained to Terrell, he didn't believe me. In his eyes, his mother was just a loving parent, blind to her manipulations. As time passed, her intrusions grew worse. Armed with a key my husband had given her, she would enter our home, criticizing and complaining about everything. She even tarnished my reputation with the neighbors, spreading lies about me. I pleaded with Terrell to move away, but he remained indifferent, busy with work. Then, a turning point arrived. His successful project led to a promotion and a significant salary increase. Seizing the opportunity, I suggested expanding our family. Now that our income has grown, perhaps it's time to think about having children, I proposed, hoping this positive change might finally open his eyes to the toxic presence of his mother. I think it's a good idea, he agreed, but if we're considering having children, I'd prefer to live in a more child-friendly town. There are very few childcare centers here, and there are no parks for children to play in. Isn't it time for us to move? Finally, my husband gave a positive response about moving, and I was happier about this than the news of his promotion. However, that feeling didn't last long. The next day, my mother-in-law came over, as usual, without any notice. I was fed up, assuming she had come to nag again, but something seemed different this time. I've decided to celebrate my son's promotion, so I've reserved a restaurant. It's a very expensive place, but it's elegant, the food is top-notch, and the staff's attitude is wonderful. It has a great reputation, she said, inviting me to join. That's nice, good for you, I replied, trying to be polite, though I was as unfriendly as ever. Well, never mind that. I want you to come to this restaurant too. Please come, she insisted. I'll check my schedule, but it's probably impossible, I added. Don't say that. We'll be waiting for you, she pressed. Even though I answered that way, she just smirked and left. Until now, she had excluded me, but now she was inviting me and saying she'd wait. There must be something going on. When I asked my husband about it when he got home, he said he had already told his mother that we would go together. She reserved that restaurant for us, and I'm looking forward to it. Don't you feel the same, Maya? He asked. Sorry, but I'm not looking forward to it. I don't know how much money it will cost at such an expensive place. I don't want to go. Just say I have urgent business and enjoy yourself, I replied, feeling apprehensive. Why are you thinking so negatively? Besides, it's not just us going to the restaurant. My brothers are bringing their wives too. It would be bad if you didn't come, with the whole family there, my husband insisted, excited about going to a fancy restaurant for the first time. Even though I didn't want to, I felt compelled to comply. My words no longer reached my husband. If he believed my mother-in-law more than me, I decided to record her harassment with a voice recorder I bought online. She was probably planning to harass me at the celebration too. I would record her voice and play it for my husband. If he still defended her, I would divorce him. With that decision, I felt a bit better. Still, the day I was supposed to meet my mother-in-law at the restaurant was depressing, and I kept sighing. I hardly knew my husband's brothers, having only met them at the wedding, and I had no memory of talking to their wives beyond greetings. When we arrived at the restaurant, the waiter led us to a large room where my mother-in-law, the other son and his wife, and the third son and his wife were already seated. A lavish spread adorned the table, with just one vacant seat. My husband, puzzled, tilted his head in confusion. Did the waiter make a mistake with the number of seats? He wondered aloud. I'll go ask. Start eating, he said, leaving the room. The moment he stepped out, my mother-in-law stood up, her expression twisted into a sneer. There's no seat for you. Why should I invite a stranger who just married my son to a family celebration? She said, her tongue dripping with disdain. So, I'll give you a choice, show your sincerity and be accepted as family, or leave and never show your face to me again. Choose now. I'm leaving, I answered without hesitation. My mother-in-law was momentarily flustered. Did she think I would beg her to recognize me as family in this situation? No way. Listen to the end. If you pay the entire bill here, I'll recognize you as Terrell's wife. You must be frustrated being treated as a stranger, so pay up and become family, she demanded. I told you, I'm leaving. Why should I pay for someone else's family's bill? I retorted, turning my back on her. My mother-in-law slammed the table and shouted, Don't you get it? I'm offering to make you family. Are you okay with being a stranger? Pay up now. I'm fine being a stranger. Since I'm a stranger, I won't pay for your meal. Goodbye, mother-in-law, I said and left. She chased after me, but by the time she reached the entrance of the room, I was already at the exit of the restaurant. When I got home, thinking I'd email my husband, he returned within 15 minutes. The waiter said the reservation number wasn't wrong, and my mom was causing a scene, he said. It seemed that my declaration, that I was fine being a stranger, had also stirred something in the eldest son's wife and the third son's wife. They had previously thought enduring harassment silently was the only option, but seeing me talk back made them realize they could do it too. In their momentum, both of them left, and our husbands, the eldest and third sons, hurriedly followed suit. I had braced myself for complaints from my mother-in-law, and sure enough, within 3 hours, the phone started ringing incessantly. It was so disruptive that I eventually blocked the calls. However, one call managed to get through from an unknown number. Hello, sorry for calling so late. Is this Maya's mobile phone? The man on the other end identified himself as a police officer from the nearby police station. He informed me that after being left alone, my mother-in-law had tried to eat what she could and subsequently attempted to make me foot the bill later on. However, the restaurant staff, already disapproving of her after the earlier disturbance, declined her request. Frustrated and cornered, she erupted in rage, hurling accusations at me as if I were solely responsible for everything. Her anger spiraled out of control, and in her fury, she shattered expensive vases and flower pots throughout the restaurant. The chaos quickly escalated, forcing the restaurant staff to call the police. When the officers arrived, they attempted to calm her down, but she refused to acknowledge any fault in her actions. Not only was the bill unpaid, but the restaurant was also left to deal with a troublesome customer. With no other options, they requested assistance in escorting her home. Feeling a pang of guilt for ignoring the police's call, my husband and I begrudgingly returned to the restaurant. Upon arrival, We found my mother-in-law still fuming, surrounded by officers trying to pacify her. The moment she caught sight of me, her eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms before yelling. "This is all your fault. If you had just paid the bill, none of this would have happened. Helping your mother is the natural thing to do, isn't it? Pay up." I was stunned. Even in the presence of law enforcement, she had the audacity to make demands and act as if she were the victim. The officers made it clear that if no one took responsibility for her, she would either be escorted to her in-laws' house in a patrol car or arrested for refusing to pay for her meal. With a cold, unwavering voice, I responded, "Do whatever you need to. Arrest her, take her away, just make sure she takes responsibility for her actions." My mother-in-law's expression shifted from rage to disbelief. "How could you be so heartless? What kind of person does this to family? Just pay already. You'll regret it if I get arrested," she pleaded desperately. But I simply shrugged. "I don't care. I'm not your family, and honestly, I have no interest in staying near someone who behaves like this." I turned on my heel, ready to leave the restaurant and let the police handle the mess, but just as I was about to step out, my husband, who had been silent this entire time, suddenly spoke up. "I get that what my mom did was wrong," he said, glaring at me, "but does it really warrant an arrest?" I let out a sharp breath. "You're missing the point. She's not in trouble because of me, she's in trouble because she dined and dashed, threw a tantrum, and destroyed property. Are you seriously suggesting that I should have paid for 6 people's meals, even though I didn't even eat?" He fell silent. Instead of responding, he walked past me toward the officers and restaurant staff. I already knew what he intended to do. "If you pay for her and cover the damages," I called out to him, "then we're getting a divorce. Think carefully." He hesitated for a moment, but then, without a word, took out his wallet. I sighed, turned away, and left the restaurant. Walking down the familiar streets, I knew exactly what I had to do. When I got home, I started packing my essentials. Just before midnight, my husband finally returned. "Mom's not getting arrested," he announced, exhausted. "She was in the wrong, but the restaurant agreed to let it go if we compensated them and promised she'd never come back. I didn't have enough money, so I had to call my brothers for help. Ugh, what a nightmare." As he rambled on, clearly expecting some sympathy, he suddenly noticed my packed bags. "Wait. What's with the bags?" he asked, confused. "I told you, if you took her side, we were getting divorced." "Don't tell me you didn't hear me," I said firmly. His eyes widened in shock, then filled with anger. "Why are you acting so weird today? I know Mom messed up, but does that mean we have to get divorced over it?" I met his gaze without hesitation. "I told you I was being harassed. I even had proof, and other people backed me up. But you still chose your mother, who nearly got arrested, over me. If you still don't understand why I'm done, then that just proves I made the right choice." He continued protesting, saying all sorts of things, but I had already checked out. I zipped up my bags and prepared for what came next. The following morning, I wasted no time obtaining the divorce papers. When I handed them over, my husband threw a fit, insisting he didn't want to sign, but when I mentioned getting a lawyer involved, he reluctantly scrawled his name, and I filed them immediately. And just like that, I was free. After the divorce, my ex-husband moved out. Since he had relied on me for nearly all household tasks, he quickly realized he couldn't manage on his own. The apartment became a disaster, and, unable to bear the mess, he eventually canceled the lease and moved back in with his parents. Amazingly, his brothers followed the exact same path. On the night they had to help cover their mother's restaurant bill, they fought with their wives, who rightfully refused to pay for their mother-in-law's mistakes, but instead of standing by their wives, they sided with their mother, using their savings to bail her out. That night, both wives reached their breaking points. They saw their husbands for what they truly were, overgrown children who would always prioritize their toxic mother, and just like that, they each filed for divorce. With nowhere else to go, all 3 men returned to their childhood home, living once again under their mother's roof. Naturally, word spread fast. The neighbors, already well aware of my mother-in-law's reputation, had a field day with the news. She became infamous as the woman who raised 3 incompetent sons, while they earned the nickname Mama's Boys, grown men who threw away their marriages to defend their unreasonable mother. Despite their efforts to spread their own version of the story, no one believed them. The neighbors had seen enough of my mother-in-law's behavior over the years to know exactly where the truth lay. They kept their distance, watching from the sidelines as she and her son stewed in their own mess. As for me, I cut all ties. I changed my contact information, moved to a new home, and left them behind. They had no way to find me, and they spent their days bitterly complaining about the ungrateful women who had abandoned them. Meanwhile, my life flourished. Without the burden of my mother-in-law and my ex-husband, I found peace, I made new friends, reconnected with myself, and, surprisingly, grew close to my former sisters-in-law. We bonded over our shared experience, turning our past misery into a source of connection. Now, we regularly meet up for meals, go shopping together, and support one another. In a way, I have my ex-husband to thank for these wonderful friendships. The day after tomorrow, we're planning to check out a new cafe. For the first time in years, I feel completely free, able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. It's such a simple thing, yet it feels like a newfound luxury. Looking back, I know I made the right choice. I walked away from toxicity and found happiness on my own terms, and for that, I will always be grateful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned. From now on, we're going to live here and take care of Mom, my sister-in-law declared, her tone making it clear there was no room for discussion. She's getting older, and it's not easy for her to live alone. Exactly, my brother, Anthony, agreed with a casual shrug, so you don't have to worry about her anymore, just focus on your own family. Their confidence only fueled my frustration. But why so suddenly? Don't you think it's unfair to make such a big decision without even consulting anyone? I demanded, my voice trembling with anger. No need to get caught up in the details, Anthony said dismissively, it's already decided. I walked away, but unease settled deep in my chest. Why had my brother returned so unexpectedly? My name is Sophie. I grew up in an ordinary household. My father was a civil servant, my mother a homemaker, and I had one sibling, Anthony. Life was simple until tragedy struck during my elementary school years. My father died suddenly in a traffic accident, leaving my mother to raise us alone. Having spent her entire life as a housewife, stepping into the workforce was a daunting challenge for her, but she did it. She took on multiple part-time jobs, sacrificing sleep and comfort to keep us afloat. We had to sell our home and move into a small apartment, but thanks to her determination, along with my father's small savings and insurance, my brother and I made it through school without major hardships. Now, I have a family of my own, my husband and our 2 daughters. This year has been particularly hectic with my eldest preparing for junior high school entrance exams and my youngest just starting school. Despite the chaos, our life as a family of 4 is filled with warmth and happiness. I met my husband in college, and we started dating soon after. We both wanted to get married, but I couldn't bear the thought of adding to my mother's financial burdens. Instead, we decided to save up for our wedding ourselves. After graduating, I worked hard not just to build our future but also to support my mother. Sending her a monthly allowance felt like the least I could do to repay her for all the sacrifices she made. Even after I left my job to focus on raising our children, I made sure to continue sending her money. At 65, she lived alone, and I wanted her to finally enjoy a peaceful life after years of struggle. Both my brother and I were financially independent. There was no reason for her to worry about us anymore. But my brother's marriage had always been a mystery to me. He had a long-term girlfriend from junior high, and everyone assumed they would eventually marry. She was a sweet girl with a warm smile, but when my brother finally introduced his wife, she was nothing like the person we expected, glamorous, heavily perfumed, and exuding an air of someone who worked night shifts. My mother and I were stunned, but my brother married her without hesitation. There was no wedding ceremony, and after that, he vanished from our lives. No visits, no calls. For years, I often wondered where he was, if he was happy, if he was even okay, but I had no way of finding out. Then, one day, my mother called, her voice fraught with unease. Sophie, I don't know what to do. Can you come over now? Alarm bells rang in my mind. What happened? Are you all right? I'm coming over right away. When I arrived at my childhood home, I was met with an unexpected sight, cardboard boxes stacked in the entryway, as if someone had just moved in. Mom, what's going on? I asked, confused. She hesitated before answering. Well, Anthony is here. What? My mind reeled. Just then, my brother appeared, grinning as if nothing had happened. Hey, Sophie, long time no see. From now on, we're going to be living here, he said nonchalantly. I barely had time to process his words before my sister-in-law chimed in with a bright smile. Hi, Sophie, it's been a while. Anthony and I have decided to move in and take care of Mom. She's getting older. And it's not good for her to be alone anymore, so we'll be staying here from now on. That's right, Anthony added, so you don't have to worry about Mom anymore, just focus on your own life. Their casual attitude made my blood boil. But why so suddenly? You made this decision without even consulting anyone, I argued. It's done, no point arguing, my brother replied coolly. Anyway, you can go now. His dismissiveness stung, but what unsettled me most was my mother's expression. She looked uneasy, yet she said nothing. From that day forward, my mother's life changed completely. My brother and his wife took over the house, and something about the whole situation felt off. After years of absence, why had Anthony suddenly decided to take care of our mother? I tried to check in on her, but they made it impossible. My calls went unanswered, my visits were met with locked doors. All I could do was wait, worry, and hope my instincts were wrong. Then, one day, my mother arrived at my doorstep unannounced. The sight of her made my heart drop. She was frail, thinner than I had ever seen her. Mom, what's wrong? You've lost so much weight. Are you even eating? You look exhausted, I asked, panic creeping into my voice. Her eyes welled up with tears. Sophie, I don't know what to do anymore. She took a shaky breath before revealing the horrifying truth. Anthony and Ariana took everything, the money you've been sending me, my cash card, gone. They've turned the house into a mess. They eat and drink as they please, but all I get is one instant meal a day. They say, you're old, you don't need much food. Her voice broke. I can't live like this, but they won't let me leave. They told me if I'm not there, they won't be able to claim the inheritance. Tears streamed down her face. She looked completely defeated, this woman who had endured so much, who had always found a way to smile through hardship. Rage surged through me. How could Anthony do this? How could he treat the very woman who sacrificed everything for us like a burden? I clenched my fists, my voice steady but firm. Mom, you don't have to endure this anymore. I'm going to fix this. They have no right to take advantage of you. I didn't know what my brother's true intentions were, but one thing was clear, he and his wife had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Convert the given script into Mexican Spanish as per given script. After thinking long and hard, a solid plan formed in my mind, one that would finally teach them the lesson they deserved. Without hesitation, I reached out to someone who could help. A few days later, I arrived at my parents' house, fully prepared to put my plan into motion. Anthony's eyes narrowed the moment he saw me at the door. Sophie, what are you doing here? His attempt at confidence was betrayed by the nervous edge in his voice. I met his gaze steadily. You know exactly why I'm here. He feigned confusion. I really don't know what you're talking about. His weak attempt at playing dumb only reassured me that my plan was unfolding perfectly. I held up a document and tapped it, then explained this eviction notice. Anthony's face paled. Eviction? What's going on? Did the landlord send this? I raised an eyebrow. Did you even bother reading it? He hesitated before muttering. No, not yet. I sighed. You should have. It clearly states that the rent hasn't been paid in months. Have you been paying it? Anthony's brows furrowed in confusion. Rent? Isn't Mom taking care of that? I clenched my jaw. Are you serious? If you're going to live here, you should at least understand how things work. The rent was automatically deducted from Mom's account until the payments stopped. And do you know why? Because her account is completely empty. His eyes widened in shock. Empty? Yes, and that's strange, isn't it? My husband and I have been sending Mom money regularly. You wouldn't happen to know where it went, would you? A heavy silence filled the room before Anthony finally stammered. Well, I needed it for something. Fury boiled inside me. Something? That money was for Mom's well-being. You had no right to take it. I took a deep breath before delivering the final blow. It's time for you to leave. You claimed you were here to take care of Mom, but clearly, you've only been taking advantage of her. So pack up and go back to your own home. His shoulders slumped. I don't have a home to go back to. Feigning surprise, I asked, oh, and why is that? Though in reality, I already knew the answer. Before confronting him, I had done my research. My husband, Jagger, is a lawyer, and with his help, we uncovered the truth. Anthony had lost everything to gambling. His house had been seized, his job was gone after he was caught embezzling, and he was drowning in debt. It was obvious now, he had returned solely to exploit Mom's finances. Just then, my sister-in-law, Ariana, appeared from the hallway, her expression filled with panic. What did you find out? She asked, her voice shaking. Jagger, who had been standing behind me, finally spoke. Quite a lot, actually, Ariana. You dropped out of high school and started working night shifts. You met Anthony through your boss and convinced him to marry you. Convenient timing, wasn't it? That's not true, she snapped. We fell in love, yes, we met at a bar, but our marriage was real. Anthony, however, was beginning to see things differently. His face twisted in realization as he turned toward his wife. You were using me, weren't you? Ariana's eyes widened. What? No. But he wasn't done. I had a girlfriend back then. I told you no, but you kept pushing. After we got married, you made me cut ties with my family, and when you needed money, I started gambling to provide for you. But all you ever cared about was the money, wasn't it? Tears welled in Ariana's eyes. That's not true. I really loved you. As they argued, I watched in disbelief. It was like a bad soap opera playing out before me. Everything had gone exactly as planned. I had contacted the landlord, confirmed the unpaid rent, and worked with Jagger to uncover the full extent of my brother's actions. With the eviction notice served, Anthony and Ariana had nowhere left to hide. Jagger finally broke the tension. Standing here arguing won't change anything. If you want to handle this properly, come to my office. We'll discuss your next steps. In the end, Jagger paid the overdue rent to ensure my mother wouldn't lose her home, but after everything that had happened, I knew she couldn't stay there alone any longer. When I suggested she move in with us, she hesitated at first, but after some thought, she smiled and said, living with my grandchildren might be fun. I don't get to see them as often as I'd like. My daughters, Riley and Eden, quickly warmed up to having their grandmother around. Riley, though initially unsure about the changes, soon bonded with her kind and gentle presence. Eden, on the other hand, was overjoyed to have someone to tell her stories and keep her company. As for Anthony and Ariana, their downfall was inevitable. Anthony, drowning in debt, divorced his wife and disappeared, but no matter how far he ran, debt collectors always found him. Ariana? She returned to working at bars, likely searching for her next victim. Someone like her, who only values money, will always end up in the same cycle of misery, but her fate is no longer my concern. With Mom now safe, I decided it was time to return to work. Jagger's law firm had an opening for an assistant, and I took the opportunity. Since I had studied law in college, I even began considering pursuing my own legal license someday. Through this ordeal, I learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the people you trust the most can be the ones to betray you. The world is filled with deception and manipulation, and if I want to protect my loved ones, I need to be prepared. This time, my husband's expertise helped us expose my brother's lies. Next time, I want to be the one making a difference. I want to be the person who stands up for those who are vulnerable, the person who ensures no one else has to suffer like my mother did. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. I told you, I'm not going. I've had enough. My voice trembled with frustration as I repeated myself to my husband. You're completely out of your mind, he yelled, his face flushed with anger, his fists tightening at his sides. No, you're the one who's crazy, I shot back, my tone rising. You're a terrible husband, you never care about how I feel, and I refuse to put up with it any longer. The door slammed behind him, the sharp sound echoing through the house. A moment later, I heard his car engine roar as he sped down the driveway. As silence settled around me, a realization hit. I had reached my limit. This was my moment to take back control, and nothing would stop me this time. My name is Avery, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a freelancer now, but when I first met my husband, I was still deep in the corporate world, juggling deadlines and endless meetings. Grayson, my husband, once told me he fell for me the instant he saw me. I like your face, he had said, full of confidence. I laughed at his boldness, but deep down, I was flattered, so when he asked me out, I decided to take a chance on him. That marked the start of our relationship. Back then, Grayson was sweet and thoughtful, always making an effort to brighten my day. He planned little surprises, supported me when I was stressed, and seemed genuinely attentive. As our wedding day approached, I made a bold move. I quit my corporate job. After years of being trapped in an exhausting routine, I wanted to pursue something that truly inspired me, freelancing. I loved the idea of managing my own time and having the freedom to do meaningful work. But freelancing turned out to be just as demanding as my office job, if not more. One of my biggest motivations for this career shift was our future family. I imagined working from home while raising children, balancing both responsibilities with ease. It seemed like the perfect plan. Not everyone saw it that way, especially my mother-in-law. She constantly criticized my decision, making snide remarks about how I no longer had a real job. Whenever we visited her, she either ignored me or threw subtle jabs my way, making sure I knew she disapproved. The only person in Grayson's family who supported me was his father, Graham. Unlike his wife, he respected my choices. It takes real skill to earn a living from home, he had said during one particularly tense family gathering. Avery is talented. She graduated from a top university and landed a great job straight out of college. Not everyone can do that. My mother-in-law scoffed, crossing her arms. Maybe so, but sitting at home all day still seems lazy to me. I'm older than her, and I still manage to work part-time. Graham didn't back down. I wouldn't call it lazy. Avery works hard, doesn't she? He turned to me. I nodded, offering a small smile. I do my best. I don't know if I'm the best, but I put my heart into my work. My mother-in-law scoffed again. And what's that supposed to mean? She snapped, her irritation barely concealed. Meanwhile, Grayson stood nearby, completely engrossed in a game on his phone, oblivious to the conversation unfolding around him. Then, as if on cue, my mother-in-law's tone turned sickeningly sweet as she turned to her son. Grayson, my dear, why did you marry someone as lazy as Avery? Without even glancing up, he shrugged. I like her face, and she's pretty decent at housework. She sneered. Is that so? Well, I wouldn't say she's all that beautiful. Finally, Grayson looked up and chuckled. What can I say? I figured I'd have to settle for someone less attractive since no one else would look at me the way she does. Oh, don't be ridiculous, his mother purred. You could have married someone truly stunning. Grayson smirked. Maybe, but Avery makes good money, even working from home. My mother-in-law's expression shifted, a sly smile forming. Oh, well, in that case, she can buy me a new handbag. As they joked about my income like it was some kind of game, Graham had finally had enough. What nonsense are you two spouting? Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? His sharp voice cut through the room. My mother-in-law merely smirked, completely unfazed. I just don't see what's so special about Avery, she said dismissively. Grayson let out a defensive scoff. I have a high opinion of my wife, so don't look at me. Graham raised an eyebrow. No, you don't. If you did, you'd actually defend her. Or do you enjoy watching people talk down to your wife while you sit there doing nothing? The room fell silent. Graham then turned to me, his tone soft but firm. Avery, you don't have to put up with this, he said. Thank you, I murmured, my chest tightening with gratitude and exhaustion. His next words, however, caught me off guard. If you ever want to leave, you should. You don't even have children yet. What? Grayson exclaimed, looking stunned. What are you talking about? If you get a divorce, people will spread awful rumors about you, my mother-in-law added, her voice laced with warning. You're all so selfish, Graham muttered in frustration. Enough, he finally bellowed before storming off to his study. Grayson and his mother carried on their conversation as if I weren't even there. Sitting in that room, I felt like a ghost, unseen, unheard, irrelevant. The thought kept echoing in my mind, I need to go back home, to my parents, to where I'm valued. For weeks, I stewed in silence, until one evening, I couldn't take it anymore. Listen, I said, my voice steady, I'm done going to your parents' house just to be ignored. My mom's not ignoring you. Grayson dismissed me. Why are you being so paranoid? She is ignoring me, I snapped. She constantly criticizes my work and complains to you about me. I know it. Are you saying you don't respect my parents? He asked, his tone sharp. That's exactly what I'm saying, I shot back. I don't respect your mother. The only person I respect in that house is your father. He blinked in shock. What are you talking about? Your dad is the only one who's ever been on my side, I said. Meanwhile, you and your mom look down on me, belittle me. That's not true. You're imagining things, he protested. But I wasn't imagining anything. Divorce had already been on my mind for a while, and I knew deep down I could never stay in a marriage where I was disrespected. Sensing how serious I was, Grayson panicked. You're not divorcing me. I won't let you go back to your parents, he shouted. I stared at him. If he didn't even respect me, why did he care? If you love someone else, then let me go, I said bitterly. You never defend me when your mom attacks me. In fact, you agree with her every time. A few days later, when work was slow, I took matters into my own hands. I went to City Hall, picked up the divorce papers, and brought them home. That night, when Grayson walked through the door, I handed him the documents. Sign these, I said, my voice unwavering. I want a divorce, And I want it now. Grayson stared at me as if I had lost my mind. Are you serious? What's gotten into you? He demanded. Oh, I'm very serious, I shot back. I should have left you a long time ago. I've always put you first. Avery, I've cared about you, he insisted. I scoffed. That's a lie, and we both know it. The truth was, I had proof, irrefutable evidence that my husband had been cheating on me. It all started one night when I was brushing my teeth. He had left his phone in the dressing room, and I wasn't planning on checking it, but then, a message flashed across the screen. I want to kiss you again. The way you made me feel, like a god. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just betrayal, it was pure humiliation. I didn't want to risk forwarding the messages to myself, so I did the next best thing. I snapped a picture of them with my own phone. With the help of a credit agency, I dug deeper and uncovered the ugly truth. He wasn't just seeing one woman from work. There were multiple. They all fit the same mold, young, tall, and conventionally attractive, but all I saw was his shallowness and deceit. My hands shook with rage, but I knew confronting him immediately wouldn't get me anywhere. If I shoved divorce papers in his face now, he'd dismiss me, so I made a plan. I'd move back to my parents' house first, then proceed with the divorce from there. The final straw came one Saturday morning. We should visit my parents today, he said casually over breakfast, as if nothing was wrong. I'd rather not, I replied, barely looking up. Your mom doesn't even acknowledge me. Besides, my mom asked me to visit her today. Oh, come on, he said, already irritated. Don't be difficult, just get ready. I love dressing up just to be ignored, I muttered sarcastically. Nobody's ignoring you, he snapped. You're just imagining things. I shook my head. Your dad at least talks to me. He's kind. Your mother? She acts like I don't exist. Grayson's face twisted in frustration. You're making my mom sound like some kind of villain. That's exactly what she is, I replied flatly. I still remember how my father-in-law had recently shown interest in blogging. He had been eager to learn, but technology wasn't his strong suit, so I agreed to visit, bringing my laptop along, figuring I could get some work done while helping him set up his blog. The moment we arrived, my mother-in-law greeted Grayson warmly, fussing over him, offering him tea, completely ignoring me, as usual. Would you like some tea? She asked sweetly. She never even glanced in my direction. I let out a quiet chuckle, amused by how obvious she was, but deep down, it still stung. On the other hand, my father-in-law's excitement over blogging made the visit bearable. Wow, so this is how you set up a blog? He asked, leaning in to watch. It's actually simpler than it looks, I said with a small smile. Is tagging difficult? He asked, genuinely curious. It seems that way at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy, I assured him. He looked slightly embarrassed. Sorry for asking so many questions while you're busy. Don't worry about it, I don't mind, I replied. He eagerly pulled out his laptop and started working on his blog, occasionally asking for guidance. Then, right on cue, my mother-in-law took a jab at me. With a smug look, she scoffed. Oh please, it's just typing, anyone can do it. I turned to her and said calmly, no need to be rude. She just huffed and looked away, pretending she hadn't heard me. After that visit, Grayson started pressuring me to go to his parents' house more often. I don't want to, I told him firmly one morning. It's my mom's birthday today, and I'm spending it with her. Oh, come on, stop being dramatic, let's just go, he said dismissively. I'm not going, I said flatly. He looked stunned. What? I said I'm not going, I repeated. Your father is the only decent person in that house. Your mother is rude, dismissive, and constantly puts me down. I'm done. His face twisted in anger. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted. You're crazy. No, I shot back, my voice unwavering. You're the crazy one. You're a terrible husband. You never defend me. You don't care about my feelings. And I refuse to put up with this anymore. Fuming, he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. The second I heard his car pull out of the driveway, I knew this was my chance. I rushed to pack an overnight bag. I was leaving. And this time, he couldn't stop me. As I threw my belongings together, one thought echoed in my mind. Does he even care about losing me? Or is he just scared of what his family will think? Maybe he felt guilty about cheating. Maybe he was just afraid of losing control over me. Either way, it didn't matter. I was done. I knew I deserved better, and I was determined to secure a hefty alimony to rebuild my life. When I arrived at my parents' house and told them everything, their fury was immediate. "We're never letting you go back to that man," my father said, his voice shaking with anger. "I can't believe he turned out to be such a disappointment," my mother added, her eyes burning with frustration. Later that evening, Grayson called. "Where are you, and why is all your stuff gone?" he demanded. "I'm at my parents' house, and I'm not coming back," I said, my voice calm and steady. "What, are you out of your mind, running back to your parents like some spoiled child?" he barked. I smirked. "No, you're the one who's out of your mind. You cheated on me and expected me to just accept it? Oh, and by the way, you're a terrible kisser. I've been faking it for years." The silence on the other end was golden. "Why would you say something like that?" he finally choked out. "Because I don't care anymore," I said coldly. "Fine, then I'll divorce you," he snapped. "Go ahead," I said, "just remember, you're the one who ruined everything." A few hours later, he showed up at my parents' house, with his mother in tow. She looked ready to explode, but before she could open her mouth, my father-in-law, Graham, spoke first. "Sir, I truly apologize for everything," he said to my father. "I wish I could have done more to support Avery." My father's glare was sharp. "You should have done more to control your family, but it's too late now." Then came the biggest twist of all. Graham revealed that my mother-in-law had been having an affair with her store manager. This whole ordeal had given him the push to file for divorce too. My mother-in-law burst into tears. "Avery, please, don't leave my son," she pleaded. But it was far too late. In the end, I divorced Grayson, Graham divorced my mother-in-law, and both cheaters were stuck paying heavy alimony. Now, my ex and his mother lived together in a tiny apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Honestly, they deserve each other. As for me, I'm staying with my parents while searching for a new home. I feel free, hopeful, and ready to embrace a new beginning. Who knows, maybe real love is still out there for me. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video, stay tuned.